All right, so we're gonna go through the one-shot drill from the holster, step by step. Start off with our fight stance, right? Square to our target. Number one position, master grip, left hand firing support hand on my solar plex. 2, gun comes out of the holster, wrist to ribs, muzzle in line with the target. 3, I marry up that second hand. 4, I extend. Now, my goal is from this position, I'm going from target focus, where I'm looking at my target or my threat, and now what I do is I bring that front sight up to my line of sight. I'm gonna switch from target focus to front sight focus. Again, front sight's gonna be crystal clear. Both the target and the rear sights will be slightly blurry because my eyes should be focusing on that front sight. Now, the goal is having a stable shooting platform. So my firing support hand is roughly 60 to 70% of the pressure. And the remaining pressure is with my shooting hand because I want lighter pressure on this hand so I can work that trigger finger as fast as possible. So my left hand is gonna be pressing this way, right hand pressing this way, so I have isometric tension. I'm also gonna be driving that gun forward, so my thumbs are rotating forward, so my wrists are locked into place. I wanna make sure when I take that trigger finger off the slide and onto the trigger, I'm gonna slowly take up that slack in the beginning, right? That slack, right? I take up that slack here until I hit the wall. Once I'm at the wall, then what I'm gonna do is press the shot, get that surprise break, right? The goal is to stabilize that shooting platform so when I get that surprise break, I'm doing nothing to disrupt my sight picture. Again, front sight focus, let's reset that trigger, right? Slowly press the shot. Notice how the gun didn't move during that firing sequence, right? So this is what we call dry firing. This can be done at your house in a safe environment with no ammunition in that room, right? So what I'm doing is practicing manipulating that trigger without disturbing the sight picture, right? Now when I get out onto the range and I introduce live ammo, I've already practiced good repetition at home doing that dry fire practice. I can also do dry fire practice on the range as well before I actually introduce the ammunition, and that way I'm gonna improve at a much faster rate. Benefits of the basic one-shot drill, it's helping me fortify and smooth out my 4-count draw, right? It's also teaching me how to go from eyeballing my target and then going to front sight focus and working that trigger, pressing that shot, getting that surprise break. I'm gonna do that a couple magazines full. Then what I can do in progression is I can slowly increase my distance from my target. I usually like to start out 3 to 5 yards from the target, so I'm really just focusing on those fundamentals, and I improve that fundamental by continuing to increase my distance, focusing on stabilizing my platform, and working that trigger. All right, guys, so what you saw there is the next step in our evolution of training, control pairs. What that's training me to do is to get 2 rounds on target with 2 sight pictures. So I'm making sure that front sight is on my target correctly, lined up with the rear sight for the first shot. And then as the weapon settles back down after the recoil, making sure I get that front sight again, acquire my sights for the second time for that subsequent shot. So again, I'm gonna build on that, start out nice and slow, 1 shot, 2 shot. As I get more comfortable, as my bullets go in the same space every time, as I get better, then I can start speeding up that tempo. So again, front sight focus, line it up with the rear sight, 1 shot, front sight focus, 2 shot, and then reset. So what you guys saw there is what we call a standard shooting response. I have a threat in front of me. I'm going to draw out as fast as I can. 3 to 5 rounds, center mass. Put that target down. So what you saw there was a failure drill. And what that means is I went 2 to the body, but the threat kept coming. So now what I got to do is put one in the brain housing. So 2 to the body, using those control pairs, 1, 2. Now when I come up to the head, it's a more precise shot. So you notice I slowed it down just a little bit to make sure I had that front side focus, line it up with the rear sight, and then I took that final headshot. So I'm going to go through some of the finer points on how to deliver that failure drill. Again, 2 to the body, 1 to the head. So again, fight stance, same thing. I go through my 4 count draw. I come up on target, 2 shots, center mass, 1, 2. Now, when I decide to come up to the headshot, it's a smaller target. I need to be more precise. So I'm going to slow it down just a little bit and then press that final shot to the head. Right? What I'm looking for is that triangle here between my eyes and my nose, right to the brain housing.
Yep. Up.
So let's go over our next drill, transitions. So what I'm doing now is transitioning from one target to the next. So the basic principle or technique that I'm going to use is my eyes go to that first target, front sight focus, 2 shots. I'm working the control pairs that we did, so 1 and 2. Now my eyes have to go to the second target first, then my gun goes to where my eyes look. So I'm transitioning from, in this case, it was the number 1 target, 2 on number 1. My eyes go to number 2 first, then my weapon tracks to where my eyes are looking, 2 on number 2. So the last drill you saw, I had a close-up target or close-up threat, and then I had a threat that was further back, distance. So just like the failure drill, 2 to the body, 1 to the head, I have to slow it down for those smaller, more precision shots. Same thing with distance, right? Because that distance, any mistake I make in my pressing of the trigger and stabilizing my weapons platform will magnify. So I got to make sure that when I go out to that steel target, I make sure that my weapon is stabilized, my trigger press is nice and slow and deliberate, and I don't disturb my sight picture in any way.